Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, June 30th at 3 o'clock p.m., and that means it's time for Women in Business. We're doing something a little bit different today, largely because up until the point when I needed to schedule this broadcast, I hadn't really come up with a topic. Of course, as soon as I scheduled it, I came up with like 5 things I could talk about, which I might be talking about today if nobody comes to ask me questions. So I realize this is a bit of a risk. Doing an Ask Me Anything requires people to come and ask you stuff. If they don't, it doesn't really work. But I came up with some topics, so I'm just going to rattle on. And if people come and ask me questions, that's lovely. And if they don't, well, then you can listen to me rattle on about whatever I want to talk about. So either way, there'll be a show. It'll work. But the first thing I want to talk about, because this is something kind of weird that I've been noticing recently. So if you've ever watched the show before, which, it's been on for a year and a half roughly now, you probably seen that I wear the same basic colors and the same basic garments and the same kind of plain sort of stuff for most of the shows. That's just kind of how it's been. And I really decided a couple months ago that, I want to change things up a little bit. I'm feeling a little more confident about my body. I'm feeling a little more confident about myself. I want to maybe jazz it up a little bit. And my idea of jazzing it up was maybe I'll wear a brighter color or something like that. And this was kind of what I was thinking. Hello, Cindy. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And so I asked for recommendations for places where people who are curvy women of a larger size got their clothes. And one of the recommendations I got was for a website called Torrid. And I went and looked at their stuff and I liked it. And I bought a few things from their clearance and they fit really well. And so I bought a few more things and then I bought a few more things. And as a result, today I am wearing a pattern, camo nonetheless, but a pattern. This is something I would not have done previously, but I like their clothes. They fit, number one. They're designed to fit women who are more curvy. They have really good prices. They're well-made items as far as what I've seen. And they have a kind of fun sensibility. And since I've started buying from them, I'm really branching out and getting into new things. And I'm finding that I really like it. I didn't realize how much of an impact clothing was making on how I was thinking about myself and potentially how other people were thinking about me. I always dressed very conservatively. I always dressed very not to be noticed because I had been told for years and years and years that my body was substandard and it shouldn't be noticed, and nobody wanted to look at that until I lost 100 pounds and, that sort of thing. So I had kind of an inferiority complex. I'm not going to lie. That's what it was. So I found that picking clothes that I liked and not picking clothes for their camouflage, leaving this aside, but not picking clothes to camouflage my body or to make sure that people wouldn't look at me, but picking stuff that was fun, that I liked, really made a difference in how I approached the world, which sounds crazy until you think about it. If you think you're substandard and that you're ugly or your body's too big or, people shouldn't have to look at that, then you tend to dress in a way that screams, don't look at me. I'm not worth being looked at. And you act that way too. The clothes kind of inform how you interact with the world. You're kind of less willing to put yourself forward. You're kind of less willing to stand out in a crowd. You're less willing to be noticed. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. If you're kind of scared of being noticed, if you don't feel very good about how you look, then your clothing is probably going to reflect that. If you're a little more confident and you enjoy playing with colors and fashion a little bit, then your clothes will reflect that too, and people will interact with you more. The weirdest thing that I've encountered is since I've started ordering from Torrid, and I've ordered, I'll admit it, a couple of times now, people react differently to me. And I think it's because I react differently to them. When I put on the clothes and I feel good, I go out and I'm more open. I smile more. I say hello more. I'll stop and chat for a minute more because I feel good about what I'm wearing and I feel good about my presence in the universe. Silly things that I always thought were silly, like lipstick. And thank you, Carolyn Cagle, for that recommendation. I never ever wore lipstick. I barely wear makeup. I still barely wear makeup. But when I started doing these, Carolyn said, get lipstick, it helps. And I got lipstick and I kind of like it now, which for someone like, for me to say that is like, because I went 52 years and never wore lipstick ever because I thought my mouth wasn't pretty and my lips were too thin and now I kind of like it. It's kind of fun to put it on, to add it to my armor when I go out in the world. So I'm learning and I'm investigating new things. And the gist of all this is if you don't feel good about yourself, your wardrobe's probably going to reflect it. And even if you do feel good about yourself, sometimes you need to take a look at your wardrobe because you get into ruts with what you wear. And you discover that, maybe you have the same sweater set in 5 colors and that's all you ever wear. Or maybe you recycle the same 3 shirts over and over and over because those are what you feel comfortable in. So that's your go-to when you have to do something. And, this is not to say that there's a way that people should dress and a way that people shouldn't dress. Some people really like classic styles and they look really good in them and they make them feel good. And hey, that's cool. If that's your thing and it suits you, go for it. I'm finding maybe I like to be a little more, I don't even know what the word is. Maybe I like to be a little more flashy. Not a lot flashy because I'm still classic in most instincts, but I'm never going to show up with hoop earrings and a halter top. It ain't going to happen. Well, I should say never, but it's pretty unlikely. Let's put it that way. But I really wanted to talk about this because it is something that I've been noticing. And it really does inform how I relate to the world. And I'm really wondering if any of the rest of you have had the same experience because, I know most people, most women anyway, have, 1 or 2 tops or skirts or pants or shoes or whatever that are like their favorites and they're the things that really make them feel good. And I never really had that. I just had stuff that I put on and I was like, it's all right. It's clean. It doesn't have any holes. It doesn't look hideous. Let's go. And that was kind of how I worked it. But hi, Martha. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. But I am kind of curious because now that I've started kind of noticing it and I've started wearing different things, it really does change how I interact with the world. And I knew that intellectually, but I didn't really know it, I guess, in my soul or whatever you want to call it. And now that I'm experiencing it, I'm like, wow, this is really, I'm also having a major hot flash at the moment. So, ignore the fact that I'm glistening because that's no good. But anyway, I really was curious about whether anybody else had experienced this. And let's see, Cindy says, COVID gave way to my not dressing up for work anymore, and I've gotten out of the habit of wearing makeup and dressier clothes even when we go out. And I think that happened to a lot of people, Cindy, because I know when I'm here just working and I know I'm not going to be on camera or I don't have to go anywhere, I wear, a nice pair of yoga pants and or a not so nice pair of yoga pants if they've been around for a while, and a t-shirt. And that's basically what I sit to work in. I look decent, but I'm not like all done up and ready to go out and face the world. When I'm on camera or when I go out, then I'll wear something, more like this, or a nice cardigan and a pair of pants or whatever. Still haven't ventured much into dresses, but that's on the agenda if I find ones that I like. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think COVID changed the way a lot of women dress, because you didn't have to. If you're sitting around home all day and you're dealing with childcare or whatever, or, working from home or whatever you're doing, you don't have to, because there's nobody there to see you. Which, in a way, when you think about it, is a little bit sad, because we shouldn't be dressing for other people. We should be dressing to make ourselves feel good. And it shouldn't matter whether someone else is there or not. But honestly, for me, when I'm here by myself, what makes me feel good is what's comfortable. And what's comfortable is a pair of yoga pants and a t-shirt. And this is an interesting question. Are you learning from what you think the world is saying, or are you just experimenting with some new fun ideas? I have never worn lipstick. Haven't used makeup since high school, just no time. It's a little bit of both, Cindy King, I think. Some of it is just fun. I never really have played with clothes, because I was always, hot flashes kill me. I was always very kind of scared of people noticing me, and so I never really tried things that had patterns or were a little tighter or whatever, because I thought that would attract too much attention, so I never did it. But now I'm enjoying it. So some of it is I'm just experimenting with fun new ideas, and I don't wear a lot of makeup either. I have to wear mascara and eyeliner because my eyelashes are gray. And if I don't, I look like I have no eyelashes, which is not good. The lipstick has become a thing with being on camera, and now I'm kind of liking it. So who knew? Let's see what Cindy Long have to say. Dresses have never been my thing, and I wore a long skirt to a wedding in April. Kind of felt good to get dressed up again, but have to be honest, makeup or the lack thereof, I do not miss. Yeah, I've never been a big makeup person myself, and I have to laugh at this because my mother was the same way, Cindy Long. My mom would be all over me if she was still here because I don't wear makeup, or especially lipstick. She was a proper Southern lady who never left the house without it. I personally have never understood it. My mother was not Southern, but she was the same way. She never left the house unless she was immaculate. Makeup was perfect, clothing was perfect, jewelry was perfect, everything. And I was the despair of her life because I just didn't give a shit most of the time. I was like, is it clean? Does it not have any holes? We're good. And I barely wore makeup, and I didn't do anything with my hair really. And she despaired of me until she died, honestly. And probably still does wherever she is. But it was never my thing. And I had spent years also being told that I wasn't pretty and that my body was substandard. So why would I spend any time making it look nice? It didn't make any sense. And hi, Tanya, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And Martha says, I'm never productive unless I shower and put on decent clothes. I don't have to put on makeup. If I'm dressed down, it's to be a slug. Yeah, there are people like that. I am not one of them. Like I said, if I'm working here at home and I don't have to go anywhere and I don't have to be on camera, I just wear yoga pants and a t-shirt and I'm good. And I'll get my work done and I'll be productive. Doesn't really matter. Now, that's something that never goes outside the house, though. I would never wear yoga pants out into the world. That's one thing my mother did that stuck, I have to admit. And Cindy Long says, I think that gives way to how we feel about ourselves and how society sees us. Yes, I think that's true. And I think clothes can influence how people see you and how you feel about yourself. So it's a way to kind of let the world know what you're about and how you're feeling. And And Cindy King says, I have no problem with people who do any of these things. It's just not for me. I even wear dresses to work. Summer is a great time for dresses. And Cindy, I'm with you. I don't care what people do as long as they're comfortable with it and it makes them happy. I know people that spend 3 hours in the morning on their appearance before they leave the house. That to me sounds like an idea of hell. But for them, it's what they need to do and it's what makes them feel good. And, that's their priority. What I'm learning is that I can express myself through clothes and I can do some things that make me feel good that I didn't really understand that I could do. So I just think it's a great thing. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I think clothing and appearance and body image, as I've talked about before, are something that a lot of women struggle with. And in my personal story, I'm discovering that clothing makes more of a difference than I thought it did. And I'm also discovering that when I like my body better, I tend to want to dress it a little more to attract attention. Now, whether that'll go away or not, I don't know. But it's fun. So I wanted to talk about that. And apparently I made Cindy laugh. So I think that's a good thing. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about is the Women in Screen Printing Awards. And we've talked about this before. I had Adrienne Palmer on the show a couple weeks ago to talk about this. And I really, really, really want to encourage everyone to nominate a screen printer that they know, because the more women that get nominated for this award, the more recognition of women in the industry will get. There are 6 women who will potentially win this award. I'd like to see, 5 or 10 times that number of women nominated, because there are amazing female screen printers out there. I've nominated a couple of them already. And one of the things that Adrienne told me that made me so happy is the first time I went and looked at the form, it's a bit of an intimidating form. It asks for quite a bit of information. And at first it was stopping me from nominating anyone because I thought, I don't know all this information. I can't fill in all these boxes. Well, when Adrienne was on the show, she said, okay, you don't have to know everything. Fill in what you can, put I don't know or not sure or whatever in the blanks where you don't know the information, and we'll do the research and figure that out. We just need people to tell us who they think are worthy of these awards. That's the whole point of this. And I was like, well, okay, that's completely different, because I can think of 3 or 4 women off the top of my head that I want to nominate. And I mean, goodness knows there's a ton of great screen printers in Women in Garment Decoration, the group. And so I think it's really important. The opportunities for women to be recognized, we need to seize all of them that we can. Because if we don't nominate each other, we can't yell when the awardees for whatever the award is are all white and male. If you're a person of color, if you're a woman, if you're any kind of minority, then you need to take responsibility for helping fellow members of your group get out there. That's our job. That's part of what we need to do. And especially when it's something like the Women in Screen Printing Awards, which is specifically centered around women. Let's get the names of as many women as possible out there, because that's the important thing. And I know I talk about this a lot, and I know I sound like a broken record. But here's the thing. If we don't talk about it, if we don't push for it, if we don't make the nominations, then nothing ever changes. You cannot complain about the status quo if you're not willing to do something to change it. Simple as that. And when the opportunity arises, you got to seize it. Because if you don't, then we end up with the same thing where the same 5 women get nominated every time. Or no women get nominated, or, you see the same names all the time. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's still women getting recognition. But at the same time, we want to expand the field. We want to make sure that all the women that are out there that are doing great work are getting recognized, at least are getting their name put in nomination. So I really, really encourage you, go to this link, screenprintingmag.com/womenprint, and nominate a female screen printer that you know. Like I said, you don't have to fill out the whole form. You can just fill out the parts that you know and submit it, and the magazine staff will fill in the rest. But the more nominations they get, the more power this award has, the more women that get recognition. It's an important thing. And I'm going to keep yelling about this. I kind of have stayed away from it for a while, but I'm going to keep yelling about this because we cannot expect anything to change if we're not willing to fight for it. And I don't mean fight for it like be nasty and knock down, drag out fight. I mean, we have to take responsibility for lifting all the boats of the other female business owners in the garment decoration space that we know, or in the promo product space. We have to that's not even a word. We have to support their podcasts and their seminars and their webinars and their Facebook pages and their businesses and their classes or whatever they're doing. We have to take responsibility for that. We can't just say, oh, gee, it's so sad no women get recognized, and not do anything about it. This annoys the living crap out of me when I hear women go, oh yeah, that's terrible. But then they can't be bothered to nominate another woman for an award or to support somebody's podcast or their seminar or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm going to keep banging this drum because it's a drum that needs to be banged, people. We need to take the responsibility for lifting all the boats. Aaron says a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, we as women have to make a rising tide to lift the boats of other women. It's as simple as that. Whether it's by nominating someone for an award, whether it's by helping someone out in a group, whether it's by mentoring someone, whether it's by, anything that you choose, as long as you're helping and trying to make things better, you're great. And we have a couple more people here. Gosta, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. And hey, Gosta, you should nominate someone from Sweden for the Screen Printing Awards. I think that would be good. And Kylene is here. Hi, Kylene. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. And the next thing, I'm going to turn that off now. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that came up in the Two Regular Guys broadcast that Lindsay Salcido and I did with the Two Regular Guys a couple weeks ago. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And I like the analogy so much, I'm probably going to do a Terry Combs with it, or at least make the Terry Combs joke, which is the first time you say it, it's yours, and then after that, it's mine. Because Lindsay made one of the best analogies I've ever heard for how the garment decoration space works. And I loved it so much, I want to revisit it here today because I really think it's true. Her analogy was basically that it's like the restaurant industry. You can go down a street and there can be 14 different kinds of restaurants. There can be a food truck. There can be fast food. There can be casual fast dining. There can be, high-end dining, really snooty with $300 bottles of wine. There can be, takeout place. There can be all sorts of different variations of restaurants, and they all basically do the same thing. They make food and they serve it to you for money, is basically. And yay, I like this. Gosta says he will nominate someone for the Screen Printing Awards. Good. I like that. That's good. We should have a Swedish winner. There was one from Australia and one from Canada last year, I believe. And the winner from Australia is actually going to be on the show in July. So I'm very excited about that. And that's going to be interesting because she's going to be up way, way early in the morning to do this. But thank you for that. But anyway, to go back to what I was talking about, see, this is the danger when I do an ask me anything kind of thing, which, by the way, nobody's asked me anything yet, but that's all right. I can keep talking. The whole restaurant analogy basically outlines the fact that we can all be doing the same basic thing, but there's going to be little differences in how we do it, in what we offer, in what customer would be interested in working with us, and all those things. So even if you have 5 embroidery shops on the same street, maybe one only does monograms, and maybe one only does one-offs, and maybe one is only interested in jobs that are, 50 garments or more, and maybe one specializes in performance wear. So it's the same thing as if you're walking down the street and you're trying to decide what you want to eat. You look at the different restaurants and then you pick the one that suits your needs and your price range, and you go there. So even if there are restaurants next door that are also serving food, maybe they don't meet your needs. Maybe you want a hamburger and the restaurant that's on the other side is serving sushi. Or maybe you only have 10 minutes to eat and you can't go to a fine dining place because you can't sit for 20 minutes waiting for them to make your food. So a lot of your customer base is dictated by what you do and what they need. And what they need and what you do are individual things. So a lot of times we worry about competition, or we complain about the person down the street, or we worry that if there's 3 embroidery shops in our small town, that it's going to be too much. But I mean, have you ever driven through a major intersection in almost any town in America? You can see a fast food place on every corner. There might be an Arby's and a McDonald's and a Burger King, or a Wendy's and a Hardee's and a, McDonald's, or whatever it is. And they're all within the same proximity. Depending on which way you turn, you're going to get fast food. So you end up picking the one that suits your needs at that particular time, because each restaurant has a slightly different thing. Maybe they offer a sandwich that the other restaurants don't offer, or maybe their fries are better, or maybe they have a meal deal that suits your pocketbook on that particular day. So even if you can stand in the middle of the road, which I wouldn't recommend if it's a busy intersection, but even if you can stand in the middle of the road and look at all these restaurants, they're each, even though they're all fast food and they can all get you the food in the same amount of time, and they're all probably serving basically the same types of food, they're all a little bit different. And one of them is going to suit your needs at this particular time. And that will be the one that you go to that day. Same thing with garment decoration. Same thing with promo products. Even if you have even if you have everybody who does rhinestones or everybody that does sublimation lined up in a row, each one is going to be a little bit different in how they present themselves, in how they do their customer service, in the sort of things that they offer. So it makes a difference. And I really, really love that analogy. When Lindsay told me that analogy the night before the show, and I said, you have got to do this on the show. And I made sure that she explained it when we did the show, because I thought it was so appropriate. It's a great way to think about competition. It's a great way to think about how to position yourself, because if you're all offering the same product, then what really makes a difference is how you go about doing that product, what restrictions you put on what you do and what you won't do, what your customer service is. And really, honestly, cost is probably the least of the worries, because even if you go back to the restaurant analogy, cost is okay, you're probably not going to the Palms, say, if you have $10 in your wallet. Granted, you're going to go probably fast food. But the whole idea is that it's the cost isn't generally what's going to dictate what somebody does from a garment decoration standpoint. Cost is going to be in there for some people because there are nonprofits and people that need to maximize the value of every dollar they're spending on promo products. So it's not entirely out of the equation, but all things being equal, what's going to tip the scale is generally not going to be cost. It's going to be, can I get what I want? It's going to be, can I work with you? It's going to be, are you easy to work with? Are you good to work with? All that kind of stuff. That's what's really going to tip the scale. And I'm laughing here because Cindy said, oh yeah, we were supposed to ask you questions. And she asked me, what's my favorite food and what's my favorite color? Favorite food, chocolate. Though I have to say right now, I'm really obsessed with edamame. I don't know what, I've been trying to eat a little more plant-based and a little healthier. And so I've been looking for snack foods because most of the stuff that I like to snack on is like, chips or crackers or something that really isn't nutritionally as great as other options. And I knew of edamame, but I never really thought about, oh, edamame is something that I could make. But I found frozen edamame and I can boil it up myself and add a little salt. And then I have a Tupperware thing of edamame that I can eat when I want to. And I'm actually kind of addicted to it now, which is a little weird, but I mean, it's soybeans. So it's like, how good can this be? But there's something about it. I don't know if it's the texture or what it is, but there's something about it that's just really satisfying. Or maybe it's just that it's a snack that I can reasonably enjoy that is also reasonably good for me. So edamame is soybeans, actually, Cindy, because Cindy said, what is that? Edamame is soybeans, and they're in pods, and they're usually boiled with a little bit of salt, and then you just split the pod and eat them. It's kind of like peas in a pod, except a little different. No, hummus is chickpeas. And I have not ventured into hummus yet because I'm worried I'm not going to like the texture. Though I did find out there's chocolate hummus, which is kind of, I'm kind of intrigued by that because I wasn't aware that all the hummus that I had ever known of was like, red pepper hummus and stuff like that. I didn't know there was chocolate hummus. So I'm a little bit intrigued by that. But edamame, if you go to Chinese restaurants, if you go have sushi, they'll often give you edamame as an appetizer. So it's my new favorite snack. So go figure that. And that's another whole thing we could talk about. I could do a whole show about that, about changing your diet. But first I want to answer Cindy's other question, which is what's my favorite color? And I just have to point to the chair that's behind me over my shoulder here. Purple. Used to be green. For a very, very long time it was green. Now purple seems to be the color that I like. I have my purple chair. My glasses are now purple. There's purple in my shirt today. I just like purple. I don't know. It's the royal color, I guess. Maybe I feel like I'm, what Janessa calls me Queen Christine. So maybe I feel like I'm royalty. I don't know. But since Cindy asked the question, I want to talk about this because I know that I am not the only one that is going through this process right now. So I lost about 50 pounds and I was doing pretty well. And I actually did pretty well through the pandemic and everything. I didn't gain any weight back. But when I had my physical about a month ago, there were a few things that weren't terrific because I kind of indulged in take up. That would be Eric's show. I kind of indulged in takeout a little more than I should have, and stress ate sometimes, and just didn't watch my diet as closely as I needed to. So I'm really working on getting more plant-based now. I'm never going to be totally plant-based because I'm a carnivore, but I'm really working on just being more aware of eating a little more plant-based, watching my carbs, watching my fat, watching the salt, and trying to do it in a way that doesn't make me insane. Because a lot of times I have a really bad history with diets. Let me say that first. I was put on diets consistently when I was a teenager, and I hated it. And they were horribly restrictive. And I still, to this day, almost have a knee-jerk reaction if somebody says you have to go on a diet. I will go and eat everything that's the opposite of what should be on my diet because I'm pissed off that you made me do it or told me I had to do it. And I know that's not logical, but there you are. So I'm not really thinking of this as a diet. I'm just thinking of it as I'm trying some new ways to eat. Because if I frame it as a diet, I tend to get antagonistic about it. And I'm not limiting anything either in terms of there's no food that I can't have. I'm not saying, oh, I can't eat chips if I want to. And, no, Lucky Charms is not my favorite cereal. I've never been a big proponent of, and just for those who are going, what the hell is she talking about? Cindy King asked me, so Lucky Charms isn't your favorite cereal? No, actually, and if Missy is here, she'll be going, this is telling, because I had a conversation with her yesterday, and she was telling me that the cereal that you say that you like the best can predict things about your personality. Honestly, the cereal that I've probably eaten most regularly in my life, and the one that I tend to gravitate toward when I buy cereal, which is very, very rarely, is Cheerios. Go figure. The same cereal that you give to babies, I like. But that was a cereal that we ate when I was growing up, and it's still the cereal that I tend to buy when I buy cereal, which I almost never do. So I'm going to have to go with Cheerios, and I have no idea what that says about me, but I'm sure Missy could tell me. And I guess Cindy's vote is for Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms are good. I'll go with, I don't mind them, but sugared cereal has never really been one of my things. I don't know. So, but I do like the marshmallows in Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. So, to get back to what I was talking about, the whole idea of a diet is very, very antagonistic to me because of my past history. So, and here's somebody else is jumping in on the cereal debate, and we're getting a Facebook user for you. If we are getting a Facebook user, you can go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give them permission to show us your name. I don't know why they're so annoying about that, but they are. Oh, it's Missy. It's Missy. Facebook user is Missy. So Missy, tell me what Cheerios means. So Missy says, I love it. Cheerios. Mine is Lucky Charms. Okay, so, and Kylene wants to know this now too, so I started a thing. I'm curious what it means. I love Cocoa Pebbles. Ooh, that's a good choice too. Chocolate cereal. Okay, so Missy, tell us what the cereal thing means. What does my choice of Cheerios mean? And what does Kylene's choice of Cocoa Pebbles mean? And what does your choice of Lucky Charms mean? You have to explain this all to us because I don't know the cereal theory of personality. I only heard about it for the first time yesterday. So if you feel like explaining, please do. Or at least, or telling us what our cereal choices mean. That would be interesting. But while we're waiting to see if Missy will explain, I'm going to go back to the whole diet thing, because if you're like me and you've had a bad history with diets, the one thing that's going to backfire on you fastest is limiting yourself. So I don't limit myself. I just try to get all the information and make the best choices I can. So I found the site I use, because carbs are something that I'm working on limiting more, because I was a huge bread, potato, cracker person, and it does add weight to you. So I figured, okay, if I step back the carbs a little bit and look at my carb intake, maybe that's going to help. And it is actually helping because I'm not doing keto because that's too extreme, but just trying to be more aware. So I found a site called Carb Manager, and that tells you carbs in most of the common foods that you eat. And it also tells you your fat and your protein. And you can log in your meals every day, and it'll tell you, how much fat you're consuming, how much protein you're consuming, and how many carbs you're consuming. And then at the end of the day, it'll tell you your totals. So I always hated that kind of stuff before, but I don't know if it's a change in, I don't know if it's because I'm doing it myself and I'm not being forced to do it, or if it's because I'm seeing results and I want to feel healthier, and and I'm getting a little older. So I'm realizing that, the more wear and tear I put on my body, the worse it's going to be. So I'm trying to be smarter about things. I'm exercising every day and I'm changing how I eat. Like I said, I'm trying to be more plant-based. I'm using this Carb Manager website app thing to keep track of everything. And I'm discovering a lot of things I didn't know. Like, depending on what you're trying to do, certain things that you think would be foods that would be good for you are not. Like, I always just assumed vegetables and fruit were like no-brainers as far as eating healthy. But depending on what you're trying to do, not so much. Like, if you're trying to restrict your carbs for whatever the reason, then you don't want to eat corn on the cob and you don't want to eat sweet cherries because they have a shit ton of carbs, which I didn't know. So you learn things, and being able to see and plan my meals lets me figure out, okay, if I know that I want to have, this thing for dinner, then okay, I have to eat these things for lunch to make sure that my carb budget or my fat budget or whatever it is works, so that I come in where I want to come in. And it's just a little bit of planning. So, it's, and I'm finding I don't mind it. And I think, like I said, the reason I was antagonistic toward that stuff in the past was because I was more forced to do it and there were consequences if I didn't. And now it's like I'm choosing it and I'm actually learning things, and I'm looking at it in a spirit of I'm learning things and I'm trying something new. And if I really hate it, I don't have to do it anymore. And I like this from Kylene. Way to go. I've used that app before too and like it. Also, My Fitness Pal. My Fitness Pal is another one that I've heard of. I've never really used it. I think I had an account. Excuse me. I think I had an account at one point. But really what I'm finding interesting about this whole experience is, like I said, I've had a bad history with diets, and I would either get really obsessive where I would track everything to the point that I basically was like that far from anorexia because I was so locked down on everything. Or I just go crazy and say, I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to eat what I want. And then that's not healthy for me either. I mean, my heart does not work properly. So, hello. I'm wondering if this is Ashley. I'm guessing maybe. But thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. So, I really am finding that the attitude I have to take is that it's kind of an exploration. I'm trying new foods. I'm trying new recipes. I'm tracking stuff because I want to learn, but I'm not making it. I think one of the major mistakes, I guess is the word I want to say, in the past, and what was done to me when I was younger was that it was good. There were good and bad foods, and I was a good or bad person if I gained weight or I lost weight or I ate something that was a bad food or whatever it was. And I'm not doing that anymore. There aren't any bad foods. There's just food. Some of it is going to get me where I want to be, and some of it won't. And I need to make good choices so I get to where I want to go and I'm healthy and, my physical is good and my numbers are good and my blood work is good and all that stuff. I mean, like I said, I got a heart that didn't work right straight out of the factory, so to speak, and it's just gone downhill ever since. If I can watch my diet and help my heart work better, why would I not do that? And so it's not being forced on me. And it's not about being a good or bad person. And it's not about my weight determining whether or not I deserve respect or to be listened to or whatever it is. It's about being healthier. It's about treating myself the way that I always say we should always be treated, which is we should always be treated with respect and dignity and in the best way possible. So that's all I'm doing. And that's the part that I'm really excited about. And yes, exactly. Heart healthy is the way to go. And, my poor heart is probably healthier today than it has. Well, yeah, we'll go with that. I think I'm treating it better. Let's put it that way. How healthy it is up for debate, but I'm treating it better. And I think that's a step in the right direction. And I think a lot of what I've been talking about today is about respecting yourself and liking yourself and treating yourself like you matter. And that's something that I'm still working on, because for a long time I was told there wasn't anything about me to like, that I didn't matter, and that I wasn't really worthy of respect. And I have learned that, yes, I do matter. Yes, I am likable. And yes, I am worth respecting. I have skills and abilities. It makes a huge difference in pretty much every area of your life when you realize that, yeah, you're a worthwhile person. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to have fun. You deserve to be noticed when you go out into the world. All these things. And yes, this is an interesting comment too. Ghosta says, I found that an accountability partner helps with any boring or hard project that I try to do. Yeah, that's also another thing. Finding someone that will hold you accountable. And that's what a lot of the mastermind groups, and that's why I ask for goals every Monday in Women in Garment Decoration, so that there's somewhere where you're putting something down that people can come back to you later if they're so inclined and say, hey, how did that go? How did it work? Did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? Not in a punitive or harsh way, not in a way that's like, oh, well, you're such a loser, you didn't do this, because who needs that? But in a way that's, I care about you. I want to know your progress and hear about the good things that are happening to you. That's why we start the week with goals in Women in Garment Decoration. And we end the week with, what was your biggest success? What made you happiest? Because I want to celebrate both those things. I want to celebrate that we're trying to achieve new things. And I want to celebrate that those things got achieved, because both things are important. But the trick is to not make your self-worth hang on either of those things. And that's something I had to learn, because for a long time, my self-worth was based entirely on how my body looked, honestly. And if I thought I was fat, then I was completely worthless and I should go jump off a bridge. If I thought I was thin, then I was still fairly worthless, but marginally better. So again, it's a stupid arbitrary, and it can be anything. It could be how you take care of your kid, or I did a live today and I didn't think I did very well, and so therefore I'm worthless. Or, you could have a relationship in your life where they don't treat you well and you think that they're correct. There's any number of things, and it's just, we all need to love ourselves more. That's the message for the day. Last thing I want to talk about, because good Lord, I've gone on for almost an hour. How does that happen? Is Applique Getaway, because it's coming up. I mean, 21 days from tomorrow, 22 days from tomorrow, because the official start of the event is the 23rd of July. Applique Getaway opens its doors. I'm so excited about this. We sold out the vendor floor. I've got new vendors coming. There are new products being presented. I'm so excited about this show. You can't even imagine. I'm going to be there, and I can't wait to see everybody and meet everyone and see how the show works. Lindsay has created such an amazing tribe of people. And I mean, God, go look at the class schedule for this show. There's classes in everything from amazing teachers who are just planning, I mean, these really wonderful classes that'll teach you so much. And I'm teaching 4 classes, 3 classes. I'm teaching some classes. I don't, I should maybe look and see how many classes I'm teaching. But I'm teaching some classes. Lisa Shaw is teaching classes. Ricky Gardner from String Theory Fabric Art. Erin Montgomery is teaching a couple of classes. Most of the vendors are teaching classes, and they range all over the map. There's business classes, there's sublimation classes, there's embroidery classes, there's quilting classes, there's just any number of things. And I really want to encourage you, if you haven't signed up to go to the show, go take a look and see if it's worth your time, because like I said, I'm really proud of this show, and I'm really proud of the vendors that I was able to bring in and the cool things that we're going to do. And I mean, there's the social hours, and there's 70s night on Friday, and there's after hours with Lisa Shaw on Saturday, and those are going to be really fun. And if you can't go to the show, there's also a virtual class option. 3 of the classes this year are going to be virtual. One of them is one that I'm teaching. So you can go and sign up for the virtual classes and at least get to see a little bit of the education from the show. But it's really worth your time. And Cindy, Cindy says, I am really excited too. I can't wait to meet you, Cindy. It's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to, I know some of the women in garment decoration ladies are going to be there. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you and getting to see you in person. It's going to be a really fun time. And I'm just really proud of this show. I have to say, I have to drink first because my voice is going. But I have to say that I did not know everything that goes into creating a trade show until I was on the other side of it. I mean, I'd seen bits and pieces because I know Scott and Margie Ritter, and I've had some conversations with them, and what they do is phenomenal. And I highly recommend, if you're in the garment decoration space, that you go to the DAX shows. They're definitely worth your time. And Scott and Margie put on a great show. But I didn't know fully how much goes in, how many details there are to be managed, and how much time you spend answering questions, and how much time you spend dealing with, I want this, not that, and how much work you have to do to bring vendors into the space, and how many questions you have to answer there, and all this kind of, I didn't know any of that because I'd never been on this side of it before. Now I'm part of the staff as opposed to a vendor or an attendee. And there's a lot that goes into a show. So next time you go to a trade show, find the showrunner or find somebody on the show staff and say thank you for what you've done. Because shows are tough as hell to put together. And particularly this year when, COVID shortened the time scheme for everything, it really takes a lot of time to put a show together. And so it's definitely worth the little extra time it'll take you to find the person who runs the show and say thank you. I'm glad I was able to be here. I really appreciate what you've done, because holy hell, it is tough to put a show together. But Applique Getaway, I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm simultaneously freaked out and really excited that it's so close now, that we're only going to be 22 days away as of tomorrow, because I feel like I've been working on it simultaneously for no time at all in like a million years. And I have been working on it as long as Lindsay has. I mean, what Lindsay does the number and amount of details she's dealing with and managing is I managed part of it. I managed marketing and getting vendors booked. I mean, she's managing all the details. What are we going to do about speakers? What are we going to do about projectors? What speakers going in what room? How many rooms do we need? What's our capacity? Where are the booths going? What if we need extra booths? What's going in the goodie bags? What are we doing for all that? And I mean, there's a million for every big detail. There's a million tiny details that have to go into it. So I definitely recommend any of the trade shows that are available, Impressions Expo, the NBM, the Graphics Pro Expo, the DAX shows, Applique Getaway. Go see people. And if you see a showrunner or show staff, say thank you, because they work their asses off to put this show together for you. And we're almost at an hour now. And I didn't get a lot of questions, but I was kind of prepared for that and it worked. And Missy, I still want to know what the cereal thing is because I want to know what the significance of Cheerios is. I'm very interested in that. So next week, we start a run of guests. So you won't have to listen to me prattling on. You can listen to me talking to someone else, which I personally like a little better. My guest next week will be Wendy Skaggs from Sweet and Sassy Designs. She is also going to be a vendor at Applique Getaway, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that, among other things. But I'm really excited to have her on the show, and I can't wait to talk to her. Thank you, everybody who was here today. I do appreciate it. I hope you got something out of me rambling for an hour. And that's really it. So please do tune in next Wednesday at 3 p.m. to hear me interview Wendy Skaggs from Sweet and Sassy Designs. It's going to be a good show. Thank you, everybody. You have a good day, and I will see you all next Wednesday.